do, since we're having fun today, let's do a couple cage matches just for fun. And then let's talk about starting business. I think that would be a good one too. But let's do a cage match. So here we go.
All right, I'm ready with my ringside commentary. Here we go.
Ringside commentary. Here's a cage match. So Dave Ramsey, we're gonna do this. The guy says, "Should I use my savings to get out of debt?" We're gonna actually have some fun and run the numbers on this, but it'll be a cage match. Bum bum bum.
Shoot, I don't even have to listen to the call to know what they're going to say. Here we go.
It's in Missouri starting off this hour. Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
That's great. I need you to talk me into spending my savings to pay off my truck.
Ah, okay. So what would your financial goal be?
Long term, pay the house off next, and just continue to invest from there, set myself up for retirement, not have anything to worry about.
Could I summarize that by saying I'd like to become wealthy?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't really have a number in mind.
Okay,
I
that's
just
okay.
want to have security till the day I die and something for my kids.
You want to build a nest egg so you can retire with dignity and leave an inheritance and be generous.
Sure.
Okay, good. Those are good goals. That's what we teach around here, so that's perfect. Well, then the question becomes, what is the shortest path to that goal? That's
Giving my money to other people.
Well, it's, and then you start studying and say, well, what if wealthy people that started from nothing like you and me, what did wealthy people do to get there, and what is their shortest path? What we've discovered over the years is that your most powerful wealth building tool is your income, and not giving it to someone else in the form of debt is the shortest path to building wealth. Now, having said all that's why you want to pay off the house, that's why you want to pay off the truck, but you're getting some emotional security from this pile of money that's in your account that you can pay off your truck with. So what do you owe on the truck?
It's just under $24,000 that I own the truck.
Okay, how much money's in savings?
About just shy of $33,000.
Okay, and so you'd have $11,000 left if you did this. No, $9,000.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, $9,000 left if you did this. Okay.
Right.
All right. And what's your household income?
After taxes, we even combined about $56 a month, $5,600.
Okay, all right. And so you're making about $85,000, $90,000 a year, it sounds like.
Between the two of us, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So you got $90,000 income. Do you have any other payments other than your house and the truck? Debt.
My daughter's in expensive daycare, but
Well, that's not a debt. That's a monthly bill.
Right. No other debt.
Okay, all right. And so if you were doing a written budget and you and your wife sat down and said, okay, if we pay off the truck, our next goal is to make sure our emergency fund is replenished because I'm really nervous only having $9,000. Truck payment is how much?
It's $411. I've been paying $600 a month on.
Okay. So we got the basic information that we need here. So he's got the truck. He owes $24K on the truck. He's paying $600 a month. The regular payment's $411. Okay. So he's got $33,000 in savings. Lacius, what is Dave going to tell him to do?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it almost even just feels like cheating. It's so easy. He's going to tell him to use it to pay off the truck, and then he's going to build back up his savings to 3 to 6 months of his expenses for his fully funded emergency savings, at least according to what Ramsey says fully funded is, and then go on from there into pay off the house, yada yada. But that's basically that's his program, that's his protocol. If you said anything else, I'll keel over.
All right. Well, let's double check real quick, and then we'll dive into it.
Then we'll jump into what the alternative plan could be.
$600 a month for 10 months would be $6,000, and you'd be back to 15 if you just put back into the account only what you've been paying on the truck. And you can do more than that.
It's smarter to roll that into my mortgage payment because I'd like to put myself on a.
No, you need to build your emergency fund back up, where you have 3 to 6 months of expenses once you're debt free, other than the house. Then I want you to start putting 15% of your income into retirement. Are you putting anything into retirement now?
No, I started listening to you at the first of the year, and I met with some of your smart investors and got a lot of great information there.
Okay.
But you're always hounding on paying off debt. And I've been hung up on this for 3 months, and I'm finally calling you. So
that's okay. It's okay. I'm just talking through. Here's the thing. The way this feels to you is like you're going to live with only $9,000 in your account for the rest of your life. The way it feels to me is you're going to live with $9,000 in your account for less than a year because you're going to have to build it back up very quickly. This is not really that big a move if you look at it that way.
I know. I'm just so proud of that stability because I put my wife through college and built a business from scratch and lived in my truck at one point.
Then sell the truck.
A lot of hard work.
Then sell the truck.
Either spend the savings or sell the truck.
Yeah, you need to make a call.
Well, I commute 40,000 miles a year, so I have to keep the truck. So I'm going to have to spend the savings.
Whatever you drive, you're destroying with that many miles. So it doesn't matter. You're going to be driving a high mileage junky truck before long anyway.
Well, that was another question I had after paying off the truck.
Well, let's get off the truck. So the guy wants to. He's convinced that he needs to get rid of the debt, and that's the big key, right? And you were right. Like you said, just pay it off, right? Then build up your savings, right? Mm-hmm. He hasn't really been saving in retirement. He doesn't seem to have much else in savings that he's talked about, at least. So the $30,000 is pretty much his nest egg. It's his war chest, his backup, right? So that's dangerous to throw that at that. But let's look at what it would look like. So let's look at Nick. I just drew it up for you guys real quick. So Nick's got $33,000 in savings. He's paying $411 on the car, or $411 is what the payment, but he's paying $600. Okay. So if we do Dave's plan, and let's look at it over 10 years, and I'm using 6% interest growth. Dave will use 12, but I'm being nice because at 12, this Dave looks really bad here. So he pays off the car. He has the $24,000. That's gone. So from the $33,000 he has in savings, he pays the car off. He's got $9,000 in savings, right? So then he takes the $600 a month he was paying on the car and invests it for the 10 years. And with the investment of the $9,000, we'll add them all together. So after 10 years, the investment value of all that money for paying off the car now, he'd have $111,000 after 10 years. Right?
And what average return rate does that assume?
6%.
Okay.
I'm assuming
Dave likes to use 12, so we want to be clear here what we're using.
We're using 6 just to be conservative, but if it's 12, then this actually works out worse for Dave. 6 is actually us being nice. So that's his plan. But what are the risks of Dave's plan? Well, his savings is diminished. He has no emergency fund. So if something happens, he has to now what? Take out credit or a loan or, right? If he can't work for 3 or 4 months, right?
I mean, let's throw this into Nick's equation, though. His savings is diminished, but at $9,000, he's not exactly sitting on empty. So depending on what kind of emergency he ran into, I mean, you could blow through $9,000 pretty quickly if all the things happened at once. But you have a simple emergency, and his $9,000 is probably going to be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, but if something major happens, he doesn't have that, so there's a risk factor there, right? So, sure. Right. On top of that fact, if you pay off the car that quick and stuff, it will actually damage your credit score. Not a ton, but it will. And if he's looking at refinancing a home, which is kind of what he was talking about, was getting the home payment down and refinancing. If he's doing that, then that makes that a lot more unlikely because he's damaged his credit. So he'd be paying a higher interest.
Yeah, I was going to say let's clarify there that lowering of credit score, depending on what he does with the rest of this plan. I mean, in theory, the lowering of the credit score would probably be temporary unless he really follows all the way through Dave's plan to make it so he doesn't even have a mortgage or anything.
Right.
In case it'll go further down and eventually away. But it's a good point. If refinancing his home is a goal, that temporary lowering of the credit score is going to make it so he doesn't get as good of an interest rate on that. So even if he did want to use his savings to pay off the debt because he really just wanted to be debt free as quickly as possible, and if that's his priority, that's his priority. I don't know. It might actually be better if he's thinking about refinancing his home to refinance it first before he goes and just pays that off.
Sure.
While his credit score is probably higher.
Right. The other solution is this. So that's just Dave's plan, right? Which is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Dave's plan. I'm gonna stipulate that there's nothing wrong in this guy's situation with this plan. Okay, it's not the best plan, and I'll show you, but there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't really. I mean, like you said, he's still got $9,000. He's probably going to be okay. The risk is a little bit higher than I would feel comfortable with. I'd feel better if he had the 33,000, but that's what it is. I mean, if he's willing to take that risk, that's on him. But let's look at what his current situation.
Depends on what his genuine priority is. What's his actual priority?
Well, right. Well, this is how you do a financial plan, though. When you talk into the client, these are your goals. These are your priorities. Let me show you what it looks like. Let me show you projections of what it potentially looks like in each scenario, and then you pick the one you want. Right. The difficulty with this kind of thing with Dave is there's never any analysis of any other scenario. It's always just the one. You're going to do this based on my 7-step cookie cutter plan, right? So there's never any real analysis. So if we're looking at it, let's do an actual analysis, and I'll show you.
Right. There's no menu of choices being presented.
Right. Exactly. So let's look at it. So on his current plan, what he's currently doing, he pays the $600 a month, and after I figured about 3.16 years, he'd have paid off the car. Okay? So less than 3.25 years. He'd take the $33,000, keep it in savings, and invest it. And then after 3.16 years, he'd take the $600 and he'd invest that for 6.84 years, right? To meet the same 10-year plan we did with Dave, 10 years, right? So he'd have paid off the car and he'd have invested for the rest of it, just like Dave's plan, only he'd end up with $118,000, as where Dave's had him at $111,000. So he's actually up, all things being equal.
And he still does not have the consumer debt.
Right. And furthermore, he doesn't have to, and he doesn't have to get rid of the 33, so he always has that there, which is a much bigger cushion, right? But let's look at the other side of that coin, which is, okay, so 118 to 111, you're like $7,000, not a huge deal, but that's the reward. What's the risk? Well, the risk is he's got the savings amount is the same, and he's got the growth. His credit score is going to be pretty much the same, if not a little bit better. And it's a little bit better to refinance the home at a better interest rate. So it's more likely, right? So on the risk side of it, he's a lot better off. He's not giving up as much. And the difference in the result is, in the lower risk idea, which he's currently doing, he's $7,000 richer, all things being equal, right? On that scenario, we changed the interest rate, he'd be even more richer. If it was higher, if it were 12, it would be a lot more than 7,000. It'd be like 20, right? But he's also taking less risk. So it's a much more attractive deal, right? You're basically getting the same thing, if not a little bit better, for less overall risk. And a better option for your credit score in a refinance. So that's scenario 2, right? I think I did. Yeah, scenario 3. Let's just do a hybrid plan, right? And a hybrid plan, I'm just saying, okay, so he pays the $411 a month on the car, the minimum payment, for 4.5 years to pay off the car, is what it would take. He's got the $33,000 in savings, and he invests that, plus the $189 a month, the excess, because he's paying 6, right? So it's the excess from 6 to 411. So he invests the extra $189 a month with the $33,000. All right, and then he raises the investment to $600 a month for 5.5 years, the time after he sold the car, after he's paid off the car. Sorry, right? So his 10-year investment value would be $120,000 after that time period. So he'd have done even better just paying the minimum payment and investing the money, the excess, and his savings amount would still be growing. He'd have the extra money. His credit score would probably be a little bit higher, and the home refinance would be in a better position because he'd have paid the loan off in correct time and not paid it off early, which actually harms your credit score. So he would have even a better credit score going forward. So that's even less risk with a better potential situation for the house, and he ends up with more money at the end of it. So the question then becomes, what's the priority? And if it's, what's his name? What was his name? Nick? Yeah, Nick in Missouri. Yeah, so if Nick says to me, hey, Duncan, I just want to get rid of the debt. I don't care. I just want the debt gone. I'd be like, that's fine. I just wanted to show you what the options were. If he says, well, I want to get it done. I don't want to wait 4.5 years to pay it off for whatever reason.
Right. He very simply might be like, I really just don't feel like making this car payment for 4.5 years. And
Right.
That's okay if that's his priority.
And if he says, yeah, but the 3 years I could handle, that's fine. And I'm like, then good. Then let's just stick with what you're currently doing. If his thought was, well, I would like to be in a position where I have more in savings, well, then we should be doing the hybrid version, the last version, right? Really comes down to what the client wants. My point is that when you break it down, they're fairly comparable, but there is a different risk level to each one. Dave's plan is the highest risk with the lowest potential reward out of these three. What the guy's currently doing is right in the middle and just throwing in. I just threw in a hybrid just to see. That plan actually has the least amount of risk with the best credit potential and the highest growth reward. So
exactly what he's already doing.
Yeah. So, just if you're doing just a basic financial perspective, you always want the lowest risk for the most potential reward. If I had 2 stocks and I said, hey, Lacey, stock A will earn you 2% a year, but there's a really high risk that it's going to tank and you're going to lose all your money. Stock B will give you 10% per year, and there's almost no risk that it'll lose any money. Which would you take?
There's very little chance of going with what's behind door A. I can't imagine why I would do that.
But that's what's happening here, is Dave's recommending door A. So that's just basic kind of stuff. So yeah, once again, another easy win for the cage match.